All right, so officially welcome to our my first session in the UK for a long time. I started actually the Art of Letting Go. First course I ran was in the UK, way back in 2018. So welcome back to the UK, Art of Letting Go. Thanks for joining Iona and Kenneth and Sally. So I thought, Sally, if you can just lead us through your nice. I'll actually bring it up maybe so we can see it on the screen because you posted on the Telegram group. Let's just see. Oh, I need to share my screen actually. Share screen. So where are we? Let's bring it down here. There we go. If you can just take us through that as a little clearing intro into the session, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, so I called it Peace That I Am. So I can say it, you just feel it.
Should we close our eyes?
You can close your eyes and tune inward, yeah. I am ready to let go and release all resistance to peace, oneness, joy, and freedom. I release all resistance to letting go of all illusions and being fully aware of the truth that I am. I release and let go of all resistances in my mind that prevent me understanding and embracing the truth with ease and grace. I release this resistance from my energy in all forms, all levels, all points in time. I'll just read it again. I'm ready to let go and release all resistance to peace, oneness, joy and freedom. I release all resistance to letting go of illusions, of being aware, fully aware of the truth that I am. I release and let go of all resistances in my mind that prevent me understanding and embracing the truth with ease and grace. I release this from my energy now, in all forms, all levels, all points in time. I welcome in infinite miracles. I allow the truth to awaken within me. I embrace the peace that I am. I welcome this into my energy now, in all forms, all levels, all points in time. I welcome in infinite miracles. I allow the truth to awaken within me, and I embrace the peace that I am. And so it is.
Thank you.
Lovely. Very nice. A very nice prayer.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I think, yeah, we'll try and start each session with something like that. If Sally's not there to lead us, we can. I'll manage. I think I get the hang of it. It's just like just to get into it, isn't it? It's nice. Kind of drop into a deeper space. Okay, so we've done our little check-in. Let's have a look at today's quote, and that'll lead us into the lesson. So, Sally, would you read the quote for us kindly?
Analyze and correct your past mistakes before they paralyze your future. An undiscovered error will always crave for repetition. Kick out errors, enjoy a bright future.
Yeah, so that leads quite nicely into today's quote, but really that's just a summary of the entire Course in Miracles. So what he's saying there is an undiscovered error will always crave for repetition. So we must root out these errors. It's really a succinct summary of how this process works. So it's just a bit to read here. Iona, do you want to read those couple of paragraphs?
Starting.
Just Yeshua teaches,
Yeshua teaches that we must first look at the error, understand how and why it arose, which is the analysis that Israelmore Ayivor talks about, and then kicks out or let go of the errors. Otherwise, the undiscovered errors in our subconscious minds will crave to be repeated. An accurate description of how the ego compulsively keeps us making mistakes to justify pain and suffering, without which it cannot survive.
Yeah, so just pause it there. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would only say that there's to understand how to let go. I mean, really let go. Otherwise, well, I know from my own experience that I didn't really know how. So I suppose in that sentence, learn how to let go of the error. Go out and find a teacher, a modality.
Well, that's what the art of letting go is all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because kick out errors, easier said than done, isn't it? Okay, exactly. How are you gonna let it all go? So, it's a detailed, comprehensive, systematic mind training process that's going to help you do that. Deeper and deeper levels of understanding of this idea of an illusion. So if you really get that, none of it's real, then letting go is a done deal, isn't it? But to really get that while we currently living in human form, with all of our sense perceptions very much engaged in the world, this is why it's requires a lot of mind training. And I like the idea that the ego really just an undiscovered error will always crave for repetition. That's very well said. An undiscovered error will just keep repeating itself, and it wants to be repeated. So this explains, the human condition, because we just carry on doing, the same kind of errors over and over and over again, unless we really know how to uncover them. Number one, so that's first step. Really see it for what it is. So that's bringing high awareness into it, and then the second phase is choose to let it go. Choose to let them go and all of these lessons, daily lessons, all of the meditations, all of the breath breaks, there's these two phases of an awareness and then a letting go that's brought in. And that's the simple formula. It's not always easy to let it go, but it's a choice. And then I find if you use something like the breath as a modality to help you to do it, it can really help just to release the energy, because you're letting go of the thought, but there's an emotion, there's an energy behind it. And so if you can make it very experiential through something like breath work, there's actually a releasing of the breath and then a releasing of the energy, that helps a lot. To actually, in that moment, let go of the thought and the energy of it, because that's all you're doing, really, just clearing that energy out. So I think a combination of mind training, so the Course in Miracles lessons, and then some experiential practice like breath work, I think is the ideal combination to facilitate this.
Yeah.
And it's using them in combination. So that's really, with these breath breaks and meditations, it's to take the mind training in the course hopefully to another level, because you've got some of the experiential meditation and breath work, and then maybe some music and nature sounds. It's all designed to just facilitate that it becomes easier to let go. Sometimes if you just do it on a mind level, it's hard for people. Okay, I'm just going to change my thoughts here. Well, the whole what I struggle with is my thinking. So my thinking is the problem, and I'm trying to think my way out of the thinking prison that I'm in. So I think bringing in some experiential, breath work and being able to, through the breath, drop into a deeper state, this higher awareness, like a pure formless awareness starts to arise if you start breathing deeply, just naturally. It's very helpful. As I point out here. So there's actually a 2-step letting go methodology here, which is really the essence. If you want to really simplify this letting go process down to 2 steps, this is it. First of all, becoming aware of your thoughts and emotions. So bringing to mind any thoughts and emotions about the situation, the person or people involved that are disturbing your peace. Then being fully present and aware of these thoughts and emotions, but remaining quite detached from them to stop them from triggering more negative thoughts and emotions. So it's kind of an art of not getting too sucked into it, not making them real and getting sucked down into a negative state, but just staying in awareness and observing them. So you can imagine yourself being separate from or floating above the thoughts and emotions that you're observing, and the person you normally identify as you. This is one way of doing it. So you're like, okay, so it's like I'm looking at Sally, or I'm looking at Iona, looking at Jono, just observing. Okay, what's going on in this character's mind, and there's a sense of a detachment as you do that. So you become the observer or the witness. And the breath can really help you with that. Breathing deeply through your nose, raising your eyes to look upwards. So try this little trick. If you breathe in, nice deep breath in, raise your eyes to the ceiling, keep your chin level, and just look upwards. And see if you can think anything while you do that. Is there any thought coming to mind? Even if you try and think about something. Anything arising?
No, nothing.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It seems to be a kind of a universal thing that when you do that, your mind kind of goes blank, which is quite a useful trick. No, I think it's something to do with the way the eyes connect with the brain. I don't perfectly understand the physiology. I'm not sure anyone does, but it doesn't matter because it works. So if you ever need to just kind of quiet your mind, you're really busy, you don't necessarily have time for a longer meditation. Just taking a deep breath in, raising your eyes to the ceiling, and just staying there for 10 seconds, 15 seconds, while you hold the breath, can really work. Just like, okay, I'm just going into a blank state, which is this awareness that you're trying to get into. So you then activate a state of spacious awareness or pure formless awareness just through that little trick. And now within that awareness, whatever you were thinking about has already dissipated just by doing this little trick. It's bringing, this is what he means, where you bring these illusions to the truth. You bring them into those thoughts and emotions into that spacious awareness. And there's already a sense of a letting go, isn't there? If you bring anything into that, there's like it's not as nearly as strong as it was before. So this is a nice little trick you can use at any point. Just raise your eyes to the ceiling, take a deep breath in, hold it for like 20 seconds, and your mind will tend to go blank, and you just kind of empty yourself, and then from that empty state, much easier to actually just let it go. And then naturally it flows into the next sequence, next step, which is deciding to let go, and then on the exhale breath you release. So you can really use the inhale and the exhale with the 2-step process very nicely. So yeah, don't spend too much time on this. Just becoming aware. I'd maybe spend 30 seconds, breathe, raise your eyes to the ceiling, and then move into step 2. So step 2 is like, okay, like I'm observing the feeling of whatever it is. Maybe it feels quite painful, it feels negative, it feels disturbing, and you just observe thought. What's the thought? What's the emotion? What's the sensation in the body? So thought, emotion, sensation is a good thing to remember. TES, thought, emotion, sensation, in that sequence, and then you're aware of it, and you just decide to let it. If you're truly aware, then you're aware that it doesn't feel very good. So you choose to let it go. And if you visualize nicely, you can breathe in. You can imagine breathing in some white or golden light, flowing into the body, flowing into the mind, flowing into the energy system, and that'll just help the process of releasing it. And then you exhale and just have a sense of releasing that energy. And if you visualize, like some people don't really visualize very well. I don't particularly visualize colors very well, but if you do, then this can work for you. You can visualize the light flowing in and then the darkness kind of leaving you. I just sort of have a sense of a feeling of like it's a lighter feeling coming in and a sort of heavier feeling leaving. Because light is not just the actual, the physical light, like any kind of visualization light. It's actually a light feeling, isn't it? So you can use just the feeling, the kinesthetic aspect of just releasing it, and then just spend a few moments kind of enjoying that peaceful sense of relief and freedom that you should feel as you release the toxic thoughts and emotions that have been tormenting you. Smile or laugh out loud as you do this, reminding yourself that these thoughts and emotions and all their seeming effects were never real. So if you can get to that sense of lightheartedness at the end of the process, then it's effective. If you're still feeling quite heavy and clouded and dark, then you probably haven't done that much, so it's worth repeating. So that's the simple two-step process, which is incorporated into all the breath breaks. So you can use this. I've given this to you, but it's actually embedded into all of the mind training breath breaks that I send you. So what else? Breath control is mind control. That's just a point to remember. So the more you start to control your breath, the more you start to be able to control your mind. So the two go hand in hand. So it makes sense to marry them into a single practice, which is what a lot of spiritual practices do. They start with the breath, and that works into a mind, a letting go kind of mind control aspect. And if it doesn't work at first, then repeat it. And I've given you the 10-step process as well. So for something that's more deep-seated, I'd recommend using that. So kind of a long-standing deep-seated issue, because that goes through it in more detail. It'll help you to maybe unwind some of the subtler nuances of the ego through that process. But this is kind of the basics. Two-step. This is really what the course is teaching in a nutshell. An awareness of the ego, negative thoughts and emotions. That's all the ego is, and then a decision to let it go, which is the Holy Spirit's correction. So that this letting go, when you've done that, that's the process of doing this, and the result or the miracle in the letting go you experience. What Yeshua would call a miracle. Okay, so any questions on that? It's pretty straightforward, but you can maybe just be a bit more aware and in the breath breaks and stuff of what you're actually doing, and you can use this on the fly, and in a minute or two you can actually do this process. So you've got it, you can download it, print it off if you find it helpful.
Great.
Yeah, so there's a bonus discussion which you can listen to or read about this helpfulness prayer. And I think I promised to do this about a month ago, and I forgot. So I've finally done this. I just forgot. When I was doing this, I remembered. So this is the kind of translated helpfulness prayer. So maybe you want to read that for us.
Sure. I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent the pure formless awareness of perfect love within me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do because this awareness will direct me. I am content to be wherever it wishes, knowing it goes there with me. I will be healed as I let it teach me to heal. Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a nice one.
Yes, it's fun.
And I think it's better for the translation because the original one was lots of hymns. Basically talking about the Holy Spirit as a hymn, rather than just it's a pure formless awareness of perfect love within me, and that awareness will direct me. So it's just naming it directly, saying that it's that awareness that I'm seeking to stay rooted in, and allow it to guide me. So any thoughts on that?
Thanks for remembering.
Eventually. I had a couple of times where I did, and I was like, you know what, I just don't have the time. I'm already at like 7 o'clock in the morning or something. I need to get some sleep. So, yeah. I'm also going to be doing my work in the day now. So, I just have to get up earlier. And that's why we're doing the sessions earlier in the afternoon. Does this time work for you, by the way? 12:30. Yeah. Sally?
Yeah, just about. I'll have to wiggle things around, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we'll make it 12:30, and then when we do an evening session, I thought because I've got family dinner and stuff and putting Gabriel to bed, is 8 or 8:30 okay? 8:30 p.m. 8 or 8:30. I could probably do it for 8. If
it's just, it's very, I feel it's really important for Gabriel to have that time with you and that,
Yeah, exactly. So he goes to bed at about 8 generally. So 8:30 is a bit less pushed than 8. So
yeah.
Does that work for you?
It's okay. Sometimes I get really tired at night because I put a lot into the day. So I'll just see.
It's just it's an hour later, but
see.
Yeah. Okay. And Sally, you don't typically join at night, so.
No, I usually have other things on in the evening, and
yeah. Well, we'll give it a go and see how we go. See how we go tomorrow, because this is the only session today, so it's not a later session later. And then I just wanted to talk about this prayer idea briefly, because it's what actually is true prayer, and it's quite nicely explained in this passage from section 5 of chapter 3. So Sally, maybe you want to read that for us?
Prayer is a way of asking for something. It's the medium of miracles. But the only meaningful prayer is for forgiveness, because those who have been forgiven have everything. Once forgiveness has been accepted, prayer in the usual sense becomes utterly meaningless. The prayer for forgiveness is nothing more than a request that you may be able to recognize what you already have. I read that this morning. I thought that was interesting because that's how I felt.
About prayer.
Yeah, or just once I understood forgiveness, then there was no need for forgiveness.
Yeah. And the true prayer is just for, for forgiveness or letting go. So read it again, but read it with, instead of miracles, say corrections. And the other translation would be forgiveness as letting go.
Okay.
See how that reads for you.
Prayer is a way of asking for something. It is the medium of corrections. But the only meaningful prayer is for letting go. Because those who have been forgiven, what shall I put there? Have let go?
Those who have let go.
Have let go, have everything, yeah. Once let going has been accepted, prayer in the usual sense becomes utterly meaningless. The prayer for letting go is nothing more than a request that you be able to recognize that you already have what you already have. Yeah. Yeah.
It just changes it slightly, because those who have been forgiven have everything. Well, who's forgiving you except yourself? So, the much more direct kind of translation of that is, well, those who have let go have everything. If you've truly let go of your ego, then you have everything. Your mind is restored. So once forgiveness has been accepted, once letting go has been accomplished, once you truly let go, prayer in the usual sense becomes utterly meaningless. There's nothing else you need. The usual sense is, oh, I'm somehow lacking and I need something. That's the usual sense of prayer he's talking about. And when you've truly let go of everything, then you realize you have everything. So you don't need to pray for anything anymore. So it's a totally different take on prayer compared with what most traditions teach about prayer. It's some kind of request. Actually, all you're saying is I'm willing to let go. I'm willing to let go. That's a true prayer. And I will let go in every circumstance. I'm going to make no exceptions. So that's the prayer for forgiveness. It's an intention to say, yes, I will let go no matter what. So it's just reframed prayer into a powerful intention for letting go. Rather than, because the danger is if you say, well, I'm praying to God, I'm praying to Spirit, I'm praying to whatever force you believe in. It's like, well, who is praying to who here? What you're actually saying is there's a separation. My consciousness, my mind is somehow separate from the entity I'm praying to, which perpetuates separation, doesn't it? Very subtly. Because I'm not the one. I'm not the divine. Because I'm praying to some, force I might perceive as superior to me or outside of me. Well, that creates a duality in my mind, a separation that's not true. Whereas a letting go, I'm just letting go of the blocks to the awareness of my true self, which is everything, which is all in all. And when I'm rooted in that awareness, then I have everything. I don't need anything else. And that awareness is what's going to guide me. So that awareness, so it ties into the helpfulness prayer. How do we be truly helpful? When we let go of all the blocks to being truly helpful, to the awareness of love's presence, which is truly helpful. So these two are, connected, very much so. Okay, any questions or comments on that little teaching?
I feel it's kind of rewiring my brain a little bit. Actually, something's changing in my head because I'm thinking about how quite often people will talk about God or the universe or an angel. But I guess that is all separation again, isn't it? I've always thought of it as me, the angel or whatever it is asking for help from is me. But I think just by whatever you've just said has made my brain rewire in a slightly different way. Yeah, I can just feel it happening.
Good, real time. Yeah, it's in most spiritual teachings, certainly religions. They have these figures, whether you call them angels or gods or saints or whatever, and it's a part of the ego's thought system, because it's still saying that there's a separate entity, there's some kind of separate being out there that you now request, you pray to, and you say, whatever it is, help me. And so there's still a denial there. There's a subtle denial of the truth that you are the one. You are God. That's the truth. That's ultimate truth. So that you don't pray to anything or anyone outside of yourself, because there is nothing outside of yourself in truth. You simply ask for that awareness to be in your mind. It's not outside of you. It's an awareness of this presence to be in your mind and to guide you, and to let go of any blocks to that, which are in your own mind. So this is the prayer for forgiveness he's talking about. You ask to simply let go of whatever's blocking you, and this the remembrance of oneness, which is the Holy Spirit, is going to guide you, and that's the true awareness. That's your true awareness, and nothing else is really true. Everything else is just a degraded form of the divine that's splintered and fragmented into separation. And so this is what happens in so many of these religions. It starts off with the one, and then it becomes many. Now you've got many facets of this, and people pray to different gods and different angels and whatever, and in that they're denying that there's only one power, there's only one presence, really. So these angels and whatever you call them, angels, gods, in the Hindu tradition they have different gods. They actually are just aspects. This might do a little rewiring for you as well, Sally. They are aspects of this presence that we perceive as somehow in our illusion of separation as being separate. So, we say, for instance, Archangel Michael is strength and courage and power. Right? So, and then you go, okay, but that's just an aspect of the presence of oneness. It's not really anything separate, but in our seemingly separated human condition, we perceive these things, that's a quality unto itself. It's not really. It's actually part of the oneness. It comes from oneness. It's just we can kind of isolate that quality, and we can call it strength, or we can call it courage, and then a further devolvement. So that's one thing to say, okay, the strength of love and the peace of love, and Jesus talks about these different qualities. But if you then personalize and you say, okay, that now belongs to a separate entity like Archangel Michael, or whichever, whatever you want to invent, you devolving it further. You're creating more separation. That's not necessary. So talking just about the character traits like strength and love and peace is more direct, more connected into that direct oneness. They're all just qualities of oneness that we can connect with, and we can feel, and we can experience in our seemingly separated experience of being human. But don't devolve it further. Now attach a personality. We give it a name, and we call it something like Archangel Michael, because you're actually moving away from the power. That's a lessening, not a greatening of the power. And I think people do it because it's easier. It seems to be easy, and we'll call that, and we'll associate strength to that particular character. But it just really keeps the ego going, because now you have all these multiple different characters in your spirit. So you've got the illusory world of separation here, and then we try and create an illusion even in the metaphysical domains. there's still like levels and separation and all these characters and hierarchies and stories. I mean, the Greeks took it to its extreme because they had all these stories of their gods, didn't they? Like, what the gods did and what the gods got. And it was all very, hardly divine. It was all very human. They were all squabbling and fighting and, so on and so on. So, whereas the true God, this perfect oneness, has absolutely nothing to do with any of that at all. There's no human characteristics or qualities. It's just it's a pure formless awareness of perfect love. What else can you say? And everything comes from there. So the more directly you can connect in with that, the better.
It's interesting when I channel something, people say, "Who are you channeling?" They want a name of some being that I'm channeling, and then when I say I'm just channeling me, it's just more access to me. It kind of, like, in other people's eyes, it looks as though they're downgrading it because it comes from me. It's a lesser thing than it coming from some higher invented being.
Yeah,
it seems.
Yeah. It's coming from source. Maybe don't say it comes from me. It comes from my true self, or it comes from. I would switch it and say it's coming from you. This is your own higher self speaking to you through me. There's only one self here. But it's interesting. I mean, you see, like how attached people are to the person. The separate characters, even in the spiritual world. Or which being is this? Well, does it have to be? Why can't it just be the spirit? This presence. And so I think this is where the course is different. He's asking us to connect with the Holy Spirit, which is not a being. It's the presence. It's the presence of, or the remembrance of this oneness that's in everyone and everything. So it's universal. It's a universal inspiration, he calls it. So you're not narrowing it down to a particular being who you call something and has had an incarnation into this life, and we call it guide or a ascended master, whatever you want to call it. This is a presence that transcends the entire dream and is there for everyone universally. It makes a lot more sense to tap into that than any particular being. And be careful of. I think he even says, was it in today's lesson? He says, do not listen to the voices of the dead, because they will deceive you. I think it was in yesterday's one. Not today's one.
But that's the thing, isn't it? Some people think that if something has left its body, some part of us has left our body and then brings us a message, that it's a much higher caliber than anything else. But yeah, I love that. Don't listen to the voices of the dead. That's funny.
I think it was in the last one.
No, I don't remember it.
There we go. Voices of the dead. Oh, yeah. Read paragraph 2.
Listen and hear your Father speak to you through his appointed voice, which silences the thunder of the meaningless and shows the way to peace to those that cannot see. Be still today and listen to the truth. Be not deceived by voices of the dead, which tell you they have found the source of life and offer it to you for your belief. Attend them not, but listen to the truth. Oh, I love it. It's nice seeing it in writing.
Yeah. So there you go. He's saying voices of the dead. Well, this is whoever's, passed. Oh, I've got my guides who've passed. Well, how do you know they were enlightened?
Yeah.
They just got really confused. Yeah. They actually didn't really get it. Now they're dead. You think they're in some kind of higher state, but they're not really. They actually don't know what they're talking about because their mind's still confused. So this is what he's saying. Don't listen to them. Listen only to the one voice. The remembrance of oneness, because it's in you. There is a presence in you that will speak to you, and it will help you to free yourself from time and space entirely. If someone has passed on and they still are not enlightened, then they can't really help you, because they're probably coming back at some point. They're temporarily incorporeal, but as long as they still believe in the dream world, then their advice isn't coming from the highest source. I remember listening to Ram Dass a week or two ago, and he was talking about no, he has a friend called Emil or something. And there's obviously some kind of guide, and Emil's saying to him, "Well, just be human. Try being human." And Ram Dass is taking that as guidance. I'm going, you got to seriously question where the guidance is coming from. Just try. You're human, so try doing human. And that's Emil's advice, but then that's not necessarily the Holy Spirit's advice. In fact, it isn't, because what the Holy Spirit is saying, well, you're not human, so you can't try being human if you're not human, can you? That's false advice. So then the ego is coming in via an apparent higher channel to just confuse matters. Of course, it's expert at confusion. This is what it does. It's going to use these so-called higher voices of the dead, or angels, or guides, or ascended masters, or whatever, to try and confuse you and try and convince you that actually you're human, and that somehow this whole illusion is real. And that game's been going on for a very, very long time in spiritual circles. People have been trying to connect with voices of the dead for the entirety of human history. What's beyond the veil, and seances, and and channeling, and mediums, and all this kind of stuff. And it actually gets the waters get very murky in that. It's like, so what is true and what's not? Who do you believe? Yeah. And too often people then attach their belief to one of these voices. They go, oh no, that's now my guide, my guru, or whatever. And if it's not like really authentic, coming from spirit, then they're going to get confused, very confused. And it's just another way the ego then hijacks them back into the illusion, trying to justify this separate world. And oh no, because it's coming from a higher voice, I believe it now. But he's warning us, he's saying, don't be deceived by all of this, because the ego will use the voices of the dead. I mean, it can use, it's very cunning. It's going to try and use anyone and anything to tempt you away from the belief in perfect oneness.
Well, that's a little bit disconcerting that somebody like Ram Dass is also being.
No, but he's still human. He's still human.
He is.
You see that? That's the benefit of having a teacher like Yeshua, because he's really, this voice speaking to us is the voice of the Holy Spirit, because he completely identified himself with the Holy Spirit. In his lifetime, he attained that Christ consciousness. He was, completely there, and not many people have. In fact, he says, I'm in charge of the atonement because I'm the atonement, because I'm the first person to do his part completely. He says that. In other words, he fully got it. He fully realized the truth, and he gave his mind over to the Holy Spirit fully as a human being. So he was no longer human. He became the Christ, because it was just this presence speaking through him. And then he ascended. He resurrected and ascended, which is, some pretty serious credibility there. To do that's not something, most people have done. Even, great spiritual teachers and masters, like, who's resurrected and ascended? I don't know anyone else other than Yeshua. So you're getting it like from a very, very pure source. This is really the Holy Spirit, and he really equates himself with the Holy Spirit. He says, I'm the, we are one. There's one presence here. So whether you call it, the Christ mind, or you prefer to personalize it and call it Yeshua or Jesus, or you call it the Holy Spirit or the universal inspiration, it's a presence that's speaking to you through this. through this teaching, and it's just been put into words. But it is not local. It's not local to Yeshua. It's everywhere. It's the universal inspiration of the pure formless awareness of perfect love, which is God, that's speaking to us in this amazing way through this voice that was transmitted. It wasn't channeled, really. Helen knew exactly what she was. It wasn't like it took over her mind. She just kind of intuited these words. She said, I couldn't really explain how it worked. It was just like these words came into my mind, and I'd write them down. So it was a kind of a dictation. Oh, there's John. It was sort of a dictation almost from source.
I wonder why it came through somebody that wasn't particularly spiritual. That's interesting in itself.
Yeah. I think there was a good reason
about that, didn't she?
How are you, John?
Hi, John.
Hi, Jono. Hi, Sally. Hi, Aaron.
Hi.
Hi, Kenneth.
Nice to see you.
I may have to go on to sound only, but I wanted just to pop in and say hello.
Yeah, welcome. Do you know we're starting an hour earlier?
I did see that, yeah. But
Okay. Does that work for you? 12:30 every day?
I think it's probably as good. Yeah, well, I mean, whatever suits you, really.
Yeah, well, it just it allows me to finish before Gabriel's school.
Well, in that case, yes.
Comes out of school at 3:00, so
yeah.
And then I'm shifting into a daytime working routine now. So
yeah, good.
Yeah, well, I've been firmly instructed by my wife that is
good. So, yeah.
Okay, I actually woke up at 2:30 this morning.
Well,
okay.
Your body will realign.
Yeah. So, and I just wanted to say thank you for that message on the weekend. It was great. I think it was exactly what was needed. So.
Oh, good. Oh. Sue's idea. Yeah.
Was it? Okay. So thank you, Sue, if you're there.
She will be in a second. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's just all kind of helped it to flow, and I had a weekend off, which was nice. So to reconnect with two people I haven't seen in a long time.
Well, quite. Yeah.
So we're just discussing this Voices of the Dead story. I think, are you happy with that, Sally?
Yeah, lovely, thank you.
Yeah. Just don't get sucked in by spurious, because the ego plays in the spiritual domain as well. Of course it does. It's going to try and use so-called spirituality, and it's going to try and hijack that and make it into the ego's version of spirituality. And there's many versions of that around. And what makes the course unique is that it just doesn't pander to the ego at all. It's just going no, in any sense, no. Just don't listen to it. And here's another little trick it's got up its sleeve, which is Voices of the Dead and whoever, characters, seemingly separate characters that now have the ultimate wisdom. And he's saying, just listen to the voice, the Holy Spirit, the one voice that speaks for oneness. It speaks only for perfect oneness and perfect love. That's all it does. So if something is not telling you only that message, then you need to be very, very vigilant of that. Okay, so I think maybe we can move on from this into today's lesson. Today's workbook lesson. Actually, where have I got? Yeah, 106. Let's just move forward. So today's lesson is 107. We'll just skip the previous two. So I hope you had a little read of them and practice them yourself. So this one is truth will correct all errors in my mind. So we've got a few paragraphs to get through. What are we? 8, 9. Yeah, it's quite a long text session. text section. So I'm just going to copy and paste it. And let's do some translation as we go. Okay, so file, new, there we go. And let's make it a bit bigger. Okay.
Can I just say, just let you know, I might disappear at some point or go off camera for a while because there's a lot happening here. People coming in all over the place. So
no problem. Just mute yourself and
okay.
stop the camera if you need to. No problem at all. It's the beauty of Zoom, isn't it? So yeah, let's do. If you want to read number 1 to start with, and then we'll do a little translation. So you read paragraph 1 as it stands.
What can correct illusions but the truth?
Stop. Forgot the first.
Oh, sorry.
Main idea.
Truth will correct all errors in my mind. That's an error, wasn't it? What can correct illusions but the truth? And what are errors but illusions that remain unrecognized for what they are? Where truth has entered, errors disappear. They merely vanish, leaving not a trace by which to be remembered. They are gone because without belief they have no life. And so they disappear to nothingness, returning whence they came. From dust to dust, they come and go, but only truth remains.
I sneezed on the truth of that. Yeah, any thoughts on that? I'm not sure it needs any translation, actually. It's pretty understandable as it is.
It's just knowing what the errors are, really, isn't it? If you're not aware of the errors, then you can't do much about it.
Well, that's why he spends a large part of the time of the space in A Course in Miracles talking about the errors. So how does the ego work? How do these errors actually play out? Because if you don't know that, how do you identify what's an error and what's the truth? So some people criticize the Course and say, well, you're spending an awful lot of time talking about this ego that doesn't even exist. How can that be if it doesn't even exist? Well, he needs to talk about it because we think it exists. We're very attached to its apparent existence. And there's all these very cunning, devious ways that this apparent entity that seems to exist in our minds works. So he's saying, well, this is how it works. Let me show you how this works so that you become aware of it, and then you can change your mind. Then you can correct your mind. That's the miracle. If you're not even aware that it's of how the ego works and it's an error, then you can make no other choice, can you? You're like, oh, well, this is just how I think, and this is normal, and this is okay. So that's really, this course is a course in highlighting the error. Okay, you've got to learn what these errors are, bring them into awareness, and then the second step, once you recognize that it's an error, becomes obvious. Well, yeah, of course I don't want to keep an error, and I understand that it's an error, and I understand the consequences of the error, because that's why it's highlighting the consequences of the error as well. And so sometimes he gives you these, quite heavy paragraphs of like, the ego's sin and guilt and pain and suffering and misery and death, and brings in images of blood, and because he's trying to say, well, this is what the error is, and this is how it plays out. These are the consequences of the error. Because if you become aware of them in like such graphic detail, it's almost like shocking you into going, okay, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to think that way and believe this anymore, because the error becomes so obviously terrible, awful to think this way. So he has to make us aware of the consequences of these errors. So that's why there's some pretty graphic passages in the course on the consequences of the ego's error, to wake us up to what it actually is, how this actually works, and that's really not nice. You really don't want this at all in your mind. You want to clean your mind out from this belief entirely. Okay, anything else strike you in paragraph 1?
Without beliefs, there's nothing there except the truth.
Yeah, without belief they have no life. So the only thing that keeps the ego going is belief, your own belief in it. It has no power other than that, and therein lies its weakness. It has no fundamental existence. It's just a belief, seemingly quite a strong belief in your mind, but it's a belief that can be undone. You don't have to believe in it. Whereas the truth just is. It's not something that's dependent on your belief. It's there whether you believe it or not. It just won't be there in your awareness. If you don't believe it, you deny it from your awareness. That doesn't mean it's not there. It just means you're not aware of it. Whereas the ego only exists because you believe it. There's nothing fundamental there. If you stop believing it, it disappears. Whereas if you stop believing truth, it doesn't disappear. It's still there. Which is a good thing, because otherwise we would be lost forever in the illusion. If we really make the truth disappear forever, then we would be lost. But we can't, because it's beyond because the truth is beyond belief. You might want to write that down.
Yeah, that's a good one.
The truth is beyond belief. It starts off with a belief. You start believing the truth rather than the illusion. But the truth is beyond belief. The truth is knowledge. That's why he calls it knowledge rather than belief. The truth is, it just is. It goes way beyond your belief in it. Belief is a starting point in truth. But eventually you just know the truth. You don't believe the truth. You know the truth. John, didn't you mention when you were listening to Carl Jung, he was interviewed towards the end of his life, and he said something like, they said, do you believe this? And he said, no, I don't believe this. He said, I know. Something about love, wasn't it? Love is true. I know that love is true. Do you believe in love? No, he said, I know that it's true. And we all have a sense of, there's a difference between knowing and belief. Knowing is stronger. Knowing is, it's a sense of beingness, of isness. Belief is still, it's in my mind, but it can be questioned, it can be doubted. But we start with belief. So we need to start undoing our belief in the ego, and then we start having more belief in oneness and in love because of that, because they contradict each other. So as we deny belief in separation, then the belief in oneness arises more strongly. But eventually he's leading us beyond belief into truth, which just is. So a complete whole experience of love. So yes, I mentioned that experience I had over the weekend with Gabriel. That wasn't a belief in love, that was a knowing of love. You feel it, you experience it. It goes beyond any kind of belief. And that's, where he's leading us with this course, ultimately beyond belief. But we start somewhere, so we start with undoing false beliefs and replacing them with true beliefs. That's still working in the domain of perception. That's the miracle when we do that correction, so that we prepare our minds for the acceptance of truth beyond belief. It's no longer a belief. It's just a knowing. I am that I am. I know that I am that I am. So when you speak, from that presence, then you're saying it's coming from me. It's coming from the I am presence that knows that it has life, that it has eternal life, and it cannot die.
Some people that like channel something or other, they say, I know this is true. You know, I can feel it, I can sense it, but I guess they're just feeling the oneness, aren't they? They're feeling the connection with another part of themselves. So they would use that terminology. Very interesting. I can feel it's really moving things in my brain.
Not your brain and your mind.
Oh, sorry, my mind, yeah.
Not a brain.
Good catch.
Yeah. Well, that's the mind-body confusion. You're not a brain, you're a mind. And the brain just is it's like a interpreter of the mind into this three-dimensional world. That's all it is. The brain's not really thinking, your mind is. And the brain's just interpreting it and enabling you to have a human experience. But thought and mind are beyond the brain, way, way beyond the brain. So we couldn't exist. You know, the mind makes the brain. The ego mind's made up the brain, not the other way around. Whereas the scientists go, oh no, you know, the mind is a product of the brain, which is completely upside down. So then what made the brain? They can't give you a sensible answer to it. Well, then what made the brain and the body? If there was no mind that pre-existed the brain, no, it all just, it's kind of it doesn't make any sense, does it? Okay, so where did it all come from then? You take it back to the Big Bang. Well, something kicked it all off. I know, well, we just take one free miracle, we forget about that, and then we proceed along our scientific materialist pathway without really considering where it all came from. But that's spurious logic. So
Dearie me, you're seriously mangling my brain today. Okay.
No. Well, let me, if you like, I'll clarify it by just.
No, I get it. It's just like yeah, it's hurting my head a bit. You know, all those things that I've listened to, and I'd listen. I don't know if you ever come across somebody called Bejar, and he reckons he channels this future self or something.
Okay.
Some alien from the future. And I've never really got into it, but it's just people like that have millions of followers and loads of people, you know, recite it and talk about it. And, you know, it's just like reshuffling it in my brain and going, yeah, let go of all that. Yeah, let go of that. Yeah.
Because a lot of these things are just distractions. You know, you're getting distracted off the ultimate truth into an ego byway, which isn't actually going to serve you. You're not gonna escape time and space through that route because you're still believing in it. So, let's just bring this up. I might just clarify it a bit for you. So sometimes visual is good. So AOLG course manual. If we go to integral model, there we go. So it's quite well expressed in this diagram. So scientific materialist paradigm, sponsored by the ego, says that your brain, the body, is primary. This is the source of consciousness. Your brain is the source of consciousness. Without the brain, you have no mind. You have no consciousness. So it denies that there's any kind of interior dimension, because that's threatening to the ego. The ego doesn't want to know that you actually have a mind. It wants you to believe that you're a body, which is insane, but then it's an insane thought system. Then how do you account for, you know, things like the brain and the body and the whole world? Well, what created all that? There must have been a mind that pre-existed it, which then led to all of this stuff. So this is what the course is teaching. You know, this domain is primary. Our minds are primary, and the mind has then created the brain and the body to express its desire for separation. But this can all be undone because it's just a false belief. The intention was false. The intention to separate was false. So therefore, everything that comes from that intention is false. And then it feeds back, creates a feedback loop. The behavior and the brain and the body and whatever we create from a false idea just feeds back into the falsity and seems to support it. And we get caught up in a perpetual loop until we break the cycle. And that's what Course in Miracles is doing, saying, okay, we'll go in to mind and change your mind at the root, which is the belief in separation. And if you do that, then you break the cycle, because then the feedback mechanisms that the ego gives you from the exterior feeding back into the interior, you don't believe those anymore. You simply say, I'm not gonna buy that anymore. I'm not gonna believe in it. And then you undo that. So you're undoing this feedback mechanism that kept you enslaved in time and space for so long through the process of letting go. Simply saying, I don't believe it anymore. I can't believe that feedback coming from a false idea, the feedback from false ideas must also be false. So I'm not going to believe it. Even though my senses tell me that it's there and it's happening, I'm not going to believe it. So it's like a master override, returning the mind back to oneness that preceded all of this insanity that we've made up. Just another way of looking at it through the integral model. So whichever way you slice and dice it, because I've shown it to you in a number of ways, haven't I? Whichever way you do, you look at it, it makes sense, doesn't it? You go, well, can I really deny the truth of this? If it makes sense from every angle you look at it, it must be the truth. Which is kind of what he's doing with the Course. Showing it to you from every different angle and going, well, that makes sense. Look at it from that perspective. You can look at it from an integral model perspective. And that's what I love about the Course. And it's what shows that it's true. Take any perspective you want and look at it. You can't break his logic. It makes sense. You just cannot. Look at it from the integral model. It makes sense. Look at it from, this behavioral, intentional, cultural systems model. It makes sense. Look at it from a pure non-dual perspective. It makes sense. Look at it from any which way you want. It makes sense. You can't break his logic, which means it must be true. And it starts to explain a lot of the illusions that are prevalent in. It'll explain every ego illusion away. So okay, well, yeah, you can undo that if you just see it correctly. So these metaphysical entities, avatars, angels. It actually really helps you to cut through all of that and just explain it very simply. And that's the hallmark of truth, is that it's simple. It's not complex. If it's complex, then it's not the truth. It's the ego. Ego's the complex one. Okay, so happy with number 1, Sally? Just blown your mind a bit?
Blown it all apart. You've blown my life apart. Yeah, don't worry about it. I'm fine.
You're fine. Okay, can you give me a little concise summary of the mind blowing in a minute or so?
There's just nothing there, is there? It's all make believe, except for the truth, except for oneness.
Yeah, that's a very concise summary. And that without belief, these things have no life. If you think about all of these things, what gives them life is belief. Why do people have so many followers? Because people believe. If they didn't believe, then they'd have no followers. So all of these things rely on belief by people. And without belief, they simply have no existence. Whereas the truth will continue whether you believe it or not. Your fundamental awareness, whether you're aware of that awareness or not, continues whether you're aware of it or not. And that's kind of obvious, because you have life whether you're aware of it or not. You continue to exist even if you're sleeping and you're not thinking. You have some kind of fundamental awareness. So it's clearly beyond belief then. It just is. So it's your fundamental nature. Our only task is to become aware of it and allow it to come in and guide us in our imagined lives in this illusory world, so that we find our way back there, ultimately back to only that awareness. There's only going to be that awareness in your mind, and the human self and all the beliefs that go with it just fall away.
Yeah, in the last week, I've found this place, this energy vibration of oneness, and when I'm in that, the ego isn't there. Isn't a space. You know, ego is not welcome. It's a really interesting, powerful energy, and I can stay. I'm there for a while, and then it's like, oh, I want to come out and play in the illusion again. It's a choice to come out again. Nobody seems to stay there, do they? It's kind of do they?
Jesus does say, he said it's virtually impossible to stay there all the time. But note, he said virtually.
Okay.
Not absolutely impossible. So there are people, I think, who've pretty much rooted themselves in that presence and they stay there, but they tend not to engage very much in life. So I say someone comes to mind like Ramana Maharshi, you know, is enlightened sage in India. He spent most of his life in meditation, super conscious states. He just, sat and didn't do very much. But that presence was so powerful that a whole lot of people got inspired to do things around him. He didn't do it. He didn't build the ashram and manage the finances, and he just sat and was so rooted in that presence, and help people through that silent presence, that they then were inspired to build an ashram and raise the money, and it all just happened around him. So you say, well, I mean, he's ultimately the source of it, because without him it wouldn't have happened. But he's not doing anything. But he's the inspiration behind it. Which I guess is ultimate mastery. I don't have to lift a finger. Everyone just does it around me. I'm just sitting here in my silent presence of being, and my presence is so powerful that it inspires people to devote their lives to this cause. That's how powerful that is. So Jesus, in a way, was so. I mean, although he was pretty active in the world, he walked around and he did stuff. He didn't manage the money, and he didn't do organization, and he just went, right, we're going here. And then his 12 disciples made it happen. It's like, right, the intention, we're going there, we're doing this. And, they just went, okay, well, we'll dedicate our lives, because this is so powerful an energy that this guy's holding, that, we can sense that this is the presence of God in our midst. So you don't necessarily have to do it yourself. Just, be that powerful presence, and let the Holy Spirit work through you, and things can activate and catalyze through you in strange and miraculous ways. And I think that's what we've been called to. But it's all stages of our journey here. Like, there are times where when Jesus started, he didn't have anyone, so he did it himself. He's like, okay, well, I need to be that presence, and I'm gonna recruit some people. That was his obviously what he got inspired to do. So the Spirit's going to give you what you need to do, for your particular journey. And if you listen to it, well, that might be a more active journey, or that might be a more passive journey. But if it's coming from the Spirit and you really tapped in, then it doesn't really matter. It's the same source. And that's sort of what's, I suppose, interesting, is just to see how it plays out. The interesting is not to perpetuate illusions. It's to see how the Spirit does your life. That's pretty fascinating. So how does the Holy Spirit do Sally Peace's life? How does the Holy Spirit do Ayana Lishan's life? And to allow that to unfold through you is inspiring. You can only be inspired if you going, okay, show me then. I'm willing to allow this to do my life, and not block it. You just have to kind of step out the way and say, okay, well, show me, how this is all going to happen, and what I should do, where I should go. This is the surrendered state Yeshua is asking us to get into, where we just get the guidance from this presence we call the Holy Spirit through the mind training. So the mind training is necessary to clear the space so that this presence can come through in a very clear way. and guide us moment by moment. Okay, so happy with number 1. Guess we better move on.
Yeah, okay.
Number 2, Iona.
Can you imagine what the state of mind without illusions is? How would it feel? Try to remember when there was a time, perhaps a minute, maybe even less, when nothing came to interrupt your peace, when you were certain you were loved and safe. Then try to picture what it would be like to have that moment be extended to the end of time and to eternity. Then let the sense of quiet that you felt be multiplied 100 times, and then be multiplied another 100 more.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any thoughts on that?
How would it feel? How would it feel? How can you remember a state of mind without illusions? Yes. Yes, I have had this experience.
Mm.
And I would say it's been extending by some quite considerable time, actually.
Mm.
I've had, particularly this weekend,
Mm.
yeah, loved and safe. Yep. Yeah, definitely. So I know that in these moments I didn't think, wow, this is what it feels like. This is what it could feel like.
Mm.
Multiplied 100 times and then another 100 more. I was aware though of the lightness and the happiness and the ease. Mm. Mm.
So it's just a glimpse. He's saying, if you can just get this little glimpse, remember a time, and probably everyone in their life has had one time at least where they had a little glimpse of this.
Yeah.
And saying, we'll go into that and imagine how that would feel 100 times, multiplied 100 times, and multiplied another 100 more.
Yeah.
So 10,000 times. I mean, and we're talking beyond quantum. You can't really quantify any of this.
No.
But he's trying with these words and with the quantification metrics of this world to give us some idea of what heaven might feel like.
Yeah, quite.
And so we get a little glimpse here, so you have quite a blissful connected experience, like you did over the weekend. And you go, okay, but that's just a little taste of what it really is. When I've let go of all my illusions, then
yeah,
it's pretty mind blowing. You think like, wow, that was pretty amazing.
yeah.
Being in that state. And he's saying, well, you ain't seen nothing yet. This was just foreplay. It gets way more powerful than this. He's using the words just to encourage us, really. So, wow, there's something just so amazing. So let me keep on this process to allow this, experience to multiply.
Yeah.
In my experience. Okay, happy with that. It's
Yes.
really just giving us a little exercise, actually, which I'll
Yes,
take
really.
you through in the meditation. And there isn't really much translation to do with this lesson, I don't think, because he's not using any of our alternate terms. So we might actually get away with no translation at all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's see if John's around. John, you still there? Are you listening in? Or?
I am here, yeah.
Okay. Can you read paragraph 3 for us? Or not? No. Okay.
Sorry, I am here, yeah.
Yeah. Can you read
And
paragraph 3?
Yep. And now you have a hint. not more than just the faintest intimation of the state of your mind will rest in when the truth has come. Without illusions, there could be no fear, no doubt, no attack. When truth has come, all pain is over, for there is no room for transitory thoughts and dead ideas to linger in your mind. Truth occupies your mind completely, liberating you from all beliefs in the ephemeral. They have no place because the truth has come, and they are nowhere. They cannot be found, for truth is everywhere, forever now.
Okay, any thoughts on that?
Well, I think it for me, it's kind of like a reassuring. It's reassuring that if we can, when we do tap into truth and align with spirit, then we receive support to help us maintain that. Yeah, because I mean, I know I for one find that, you know, if I'm feeling lost and help that might come through the course, but I just need to kind of tap into it and consciously use the right mind to switch into it. Yeah.
He's pointing us to the ultimate, the end game here, the end goal. Is the truth has come and no illusions. So that's a state of complete enlightenment. Truth is everywhere in your mind. So just this, we could call it pure formless awareness, a perfect love. Only that is in your mind. There are no illusions at all. That's the ultimate state of resting in the truth. And he's just pointing us to it, saying, well, this is where you're headed. This is what it's going to be like. Okay, you want to give a little summary of that paragraph?
Yeah, I think it's summarized by saying, stay in there and spirit will support you.
Yeah. Truth occupies your mind, liberating you. No truth, because truth has come. Yeah. So he's pointing us to the ultimate destination without illusions. This is what it's going to be like, and he's telling us exactly what it's going to be like. No room for transitory thoughts and dead ideas to linger in your mind. All of this is gone. These ideas are nowhere, because only the truth is everywhere. Okay. Happy with number 3?
Yep.
Moving on to number 4. I think we're cycling back to Sally. She's around. Sally, you still there with us?
Yeah. Where are we? Number 4.
Yeah.
When truth has come, it does not stay a while, to disappear or change to something else. It does not shift and alter in its form, nor come and go and come again. It stays exactly as it always was, to be depended on in every need and trusted with a perfect trust, with all the seeming difficulties and the doubts that the appearances the world presents engender. They will merely blow away when truth corrects the errors in your mind. Okay, yeah, it's constant. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really the message. Anything else stand out for you there?
They will merely blow away. That feels very comforting. It's like a cloud in the sky. You know, the thought just disappears Yeah. And then
So,
they're gone, the truth appears.
that connects quite nicely. You know, the imagery I sometimes use in the meditations is blowing the clouds away with the breath, because they're just illusions. It's just like a cloud in your mind. It has no real substance. Beyond that is the blue sky. It's like another order of reality, isn't it? If you think about the analogy of clouds and sky, it's like the clouds are quite low to the ground. You know, it's like a kilometer or two above the ground, and then the blue sky is just this infinite by comparison. It's got the whole of space behind it. So it's a similar kind of thing with, you know, your true mind, your true awareness, and the ego. It's like clouds scudding around the lower reaches of your mind. It's just obscuring that pure formless awareness that's infinite, and you can just blow the appearances away. All of these thoughts have no meaning and have no substance at all. Just to realize it. You know, the mind training is necessary because we've got so lost in the clouds, believing the clouds are reality and that our vision's really obscured and that they really have substance, that the blue sky beyond is obscured.
Yeah, head in the clouds. That's how much it is, isn't it?
Yeah. All these phrases refer to. So it's symbolically, because it's very difficult to just describe the ego without some kind of language to picture it. So we use analogies to try and imagery to try and picture it. And go, okay, well that kind of makes sense. Yeah, it's just like a cloud pattern, but a cloud has no substance. It looks real. It looks like it has substance, but actually, if you go through a cloud, you can just go through it. There's nothing of substance there at all. So it's quite a good way of thinking about the illusion. Seemingly real, but not. Seemingly has a reality and substance, but doesn't really. Anything else struck you there?
I do like the constantness of truth, that it never changes. Feel it, can't you, when you're in truth? It's just constant. Ego is highs and lows.
Yeah, exactly. And so you got to be willing to give up both the highs and the lows. You know, this is what he's saying, because the roller coaster ride, the ups and the downs, are all part of it. So some people want the highs. Oh no, like I really want to be excited, and I want to be, I want to get high on life, and blah blah blah. However they define that high, it doesn't have to be a chemical. Well, ultimately, everything's chemical because our body's responding. So even if it's internally generated chemicals, any high we experience is our own biochemistry doing it. But if you're on that kind of thrill seeking, trying to get high, then inevitably there's going to be a low. Even if it's not you taking anything external, but it's like I get high on the experience, get really excited, and then I feel a little bit kind of flat afterwards. We all know that feeling, and then then I need to pick myself up again, so I need another high. Whereas this is just stable, constant, and so like the ego is going to say, but that's just boring. It's like nothing ever changes. That's just boring. I want change. I want movement. I want shift. I want alternation. I want vacillation. I want the highs and the lows. And so part of this, this process of mind training, saying, no, you really don't. Because none of those really makes you happy. True happiness, true peace is not high or low. It's just a stable state. And it feels deeply, deeply rewarding. If you're in a deeply peaceful state, there's something so amazing about that not even the biggest excitement you ever had in your life can quite touch that, the deep peace that you feel. It's like a different quality of experience, isn't it?
And that's what Ram Dass experienced, didn't he? He had the chemical highs, couldn't stand the lows. He had to go through that to find more balance.
yeah, he was seeking, and eventually, I'm not sure how stable he was in that, but I think he found that it was like by dropping the seeking and just being, and he did a lot of breath work, just watching the breath, just staying, he could actually stay in that state just by being present and watching the breath. And nothing external, just, I suppose he's spending a lot of time in the practice of it. So again, that can become a kind of attachment. Okay, well, I have to breathe in order to get into that state. I noticed that with the Vipassana meditation, they were like very obsessed about the practice. And I said, is there a danger of becoming attached to the practice? And the teacher was, oh, no, there isn't. I'm like, really? I'm not sure about that. Because, now it becomes all about the practice rather than about just staying rooted in the state. The practice becomes another false idol. That you're seeking to just do the practice, and it becomes a ritual rather than actually it's about the state. It's actually about staying stable in that state. And you should actually be able to stay there without the practice. That's where you're ultimately going. Is, you don't need a practice in pure formless awareness. It just is. So that's another cunning little trick the ego's got up its sleeve. It uses the practice, and you focus more on the practice than on the ultimate state, and then the practice becomes another false idol. It's actually blocking you from experiencing this truth that he's talking about.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I saw it, in that. And in fact, the Buddha, it was interesting because it's a Buddhist teaching, and he came up with the idea of the middle way, based on the idea that practicing in his experience, and he did a lot of practice, 7 years of just about tried every spiritual practice that there was available in India at the time, and nearly killed himself doing it. So he was a serious practicer, and eventually realized that the practice wasn't working. He wasn't getting anywhere with it. So the middle way was let go of the extremes of the practice and just sit in the beingness of it. And then he taught the meditation. The Vipassana is just a way. The breathing is a way of, okay, we'll just sit and be. But then again, what people do is they go, oh, but now it becomes about the practice. And now we've got to do, I kid you not, these people do 60 days of silent meditation, 12 hours a day. Now that doesn't sound like a middle way to me, does it? That's a pretty extreme. So this is what happens, is the mind gets involved and starts to hijack it. And often the original insight of the master, because Buddha had the insight, this isn't really working, then they lose it, and then it goes back into what he was actually trying to correct 2,500 years ago. To take people out of that obsessive practice into just sit, drop that all, and just be, just abide in the beingness of it. And the practice can facilitate that, but don't make the practice into the false idol. Have you got to go, Ayana? Okay. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah,
and,
okay. Thanks, everybody.
Hopefully see you tomorrow. Join us tomorrow.
So, yeah. Nice. Thank you. Good to see you. Bye. Bye-bye.
All right. Namaste.
Namaste.
Okay, so we'll take that as cue to move on to number 5. I think it's John again. John?
I'm here.
Number 5, yeah?
Yep. When truth has come, it harbors in its wings the gift of perfect constancy and love, which does not falter in the face of pain, but looks beyond it, steadily and sure. Here is the gift of healing, for the truth needs no defense, and therefore no attack is possible. Illusions can be brought to truth to be corrected, but the truth stands far beyond illusions and cannot be brought to them to turn them into truth.
Okay. Any thoughts on that?
Seems to be quite a lot in this one, actually. When truth has come, it harbours in its wings the gift of perfect constancy and love, which does not falter in the face of pain, but looks beyond it steadily and sure. Okay, that makes sense. Here is the gift of healing. So the gift of healing is very much linked with the constancy of staying with truth. Here is the gift of healing. The truth needs no defense, and therefore no attack is possible. Illusions can be brought to truth to be corrected, which is a fundamental principle of the course, isn't it? Illusions always need to be brought to truth. But the truth stands far beyond illusions. So we reasserting that pure formless awareness stands beyond, far beyond illusion, and cannot, and as such, cannot be brought to them to turn them into truth. Which is kind of like explaining why we need to take illusions to the truth to be corrected. Because pure formless awareness is not going to go and sort out illusions.
Yeah, so that last point is important. Cannot be brought to them to turn them into truth.
Which is a misconception, isn't it, in our typical way of being Christian thinking, is when we ask God or Christ to sort out such and such an issue.
Yeah, that's prayer. To talk about what we were talking about, you missed that a little bit, but we talked about the true prayer is for forgiveness. True prayer is for letting go, in other words. So in this, if you saw today's thing, today's little email, prayer is a way of asking for something. It's a medium of miracles. The only meaningful prayer is for forgiveness, because those who have been forgiven or let go have everything. So once forgiveness has been accepted, or once you have truly let go, prayer in the usual sense becomes utterly meaningless.
Yeah.
For forgiveness or letting go is nothing more than a request that you may be able to recognize what you already have. So that's what he's stating very clearly there, and that ties totally into what he's saying about truth.
Yeah.
Because you bring the illusion to the truth. The true prayer is for letting go. Okay, I'm just going to let go of my belief in the illusions, and then I've brought the illusion to the truth. But I cannot, if I start saying, well, God, please help me to whatever, get a better job, make money, get a new relationship. I'm trying to bring the truth into the illusion.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? I'm just seeing this in a more nuanced way than I did before. Yeah.
And you see how it all ties together.
It's
from another section 5 of chapter 3, so completely different, but it's one holistic thought system that integrates. It's pointing us to this non-dual state where there's only truth. Okay, so happy with number 5. You want to give any other comments? We'll give a little summary of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, happy with that, John?
Yeah. I'm happy with it. I'm just thinking of a summary. I think my summary would be: truth is always, and And illusion can always be healed or let go of when we bring it to truth. But we must bring it to truth.
Not try and bring truth into the dream and make the dream real. This is what a lot of teachers and teachings do, is they say, well, this is holy or sacred. we bring God into the dream. We say this is the sacred whatever, sacred object, sacred mountain. And of course none of that's true, because nothing in form is sacred.
Yeah.
Rather than saying, no, actually none of this really exists, none of this is true, so I'm not trying to make form sacred. Trying to let it go and look beyond form to the eternal, and not get fixated on anything in this world.
So what's the theory of how do we kind of interpret ley lines and things like that? I mean, you've got
they're not sacred.
No, they're not.
We call them sacred sites and whatever, because nothing in form, it comes from spirit. Because God didn't create the world. So it's an energy that we can perceive, we can experience it in the dream world, and there's many of these kinds of energies, but it's not pure formless awareness. It's not eternity.
No.
It's something of this world. Energy, in fact, is not of God. Energy is a projection of the ego. So what is the world made out of? It's made out of mind energy. It's this projected thought. That's all energy. It's projected thought of a mind that's gone insane. So energy is not divine. People say divine energy, but that's a contradiction in terms. It's not divine energy, because it's coming from a thought of separation. That from that thought, all the energy and the matter, because as we know, energy is just matter, equals mc squared. It's all mind stuff. It's a projection of mind outwards.
So
true.
So I mean, Stonehenge, Ayers Rock, Glastonbury.
Yeah, it's all part of the illusion. Now, what might happen in those so-called sacred sites is people can connect with the spirit. They can feel a deeper connection with something that is non-dual, something that's permanent, that's true, that's real. And then they say, well, because I've had that experience, it must be the site that's sacred.
Yeah.
And then they put it into form, instead of just saying, no, all that I did was in that location, there was something about the location that helped me to transcend the illusion of time and space temporarily, and to go beyond that into an experience of another realm, another dimension. But that experience is actually available to me anytime and anywhere. It's not specific to that site, because this is the problem. Then the mind gets hold of that and says, oh, well, in order to have this experience, you've got to go to the site.
Yeah.
And you've got to meditate for 3 hours in the stone circle, or whatever, the parameters. I was listening to Ram Dass again. He was going, I was on this well, if I just find the formula, if I go to the right place in the right time, and I meditate for so many hours, and I take this combination of chemicals, then I'll get into the state. And so you're making the state of connecting with God dependent on all these illusions, which of course is false.
Yeah.
Because if that's who you really are, then you actually have it all the time. You've never really lost it, and you're just playing hide and seek with yourself. You're going, oh, well, I can only find it there, and only find it this way, when actually it's always there, it's always available. But that's another way the ego denies it, isn't it? oh, well, I can only do it if I take this chemical, if I'm in this place, or if I meditate for so many hours. Like, who creates all these rules? We do. And those are just blocks to the awareness of love's presence. And actually, when I had my kind of mystic experience, I just dropped the rules. It was when I actually let go of all that. I've been meditating for 9 days. Okay, you could argue that prepared me for it. But it was like finally just like, you know what? I'm actually just going to lie down. And they told us not to lie down. I'm just going to lie down and just be and just relax. And then it came. It wasn't through the striving. If I said, no, I can't do this, I'm just going to carry on in the practice, I wouldn't have got that experience. So it was almost like the Buddha's, he had the experience when he let go. He was like, I've tried and I've tried and I've tried all these different ways. And when I actually let go of all of that and I just give it up, then I have the true experience. Then the spirit beyond all of it reveals itself. But as long as I'm still caught up in the form of trying to achieve something through form, I'm lost. And it's not the truth, is it? So, but it's worth bearing that in mind. We practice and we do these meditations and we do these spiritual practices, but in the end, it's so that we can let go of all of that and just go beyond it all. So training wheels, so that we can let go of it all and just be who we really are.
Good to remember that.
Yeah, always. Because, it's a paradox. We don't need anything. Even in, like I was reading up on Advaita. So in Advaita, it's really just a pure, there's only Brahman. There's only this pure non-dual awareness, perfect oneness, God, Brahman, whatever you want to call it. And they're going, nothing else is necessary, nothing else is required, that's it. And then simultaneously, they recommend all kinds of strenuous practices to get there. It's like, well, if you only need that, if that's all there really is, then why do you need all the practices? So it's a paradox. It's inherent in any spiritual path. Even Yeshua in Course in Miracles saying, well, you need do nothing. You need do nothing. You're already there. It's all fine. And then he's giving you all this practice to do. These mind training lessons. It's a paradox, isn't it? Because Sorry, John?
No, I was just affirming it is a paradox because he often says every hour, go back to the theme of the day.
Yeah, every hour do it, but you don't you need do nothing. There's a paradox. Well, you need do nothing, but every hour you got to practice.
Yeah.
But the paradox is I think is resolved in the practicing. You see, so when you do it, and you train your mind in the right way, in the end, you drop the paradox, you drop the need for practice because there's no belief in separation remaining. And so you got to practice to do that. To undo the ego requires practice until you get to the point where it's not necessary anymore, and you just are, in the spirit. But if you say, well, I am perfectly in the spirit and I've still got ego stuff going on. I've had someone who joined on a free trial, Iona referred, and she was like, no, I just want to like bliss out and be, and just surrender into that, and it's love, that. I'm going, yeah, you're right, but are you really there, or are you kidding yourself? Do you really have that experience consistently? Because if you do, then you're enlightened already, and there's no need for practice. You're there, you get it. And so that's another way the ego. It's like, oh no, I'm already there, and it's going to try and convince you that you're already there when you're not. When you've still got all kinds of ego blocks in place to avoid doing the practice to undo them. So it's tricky. It gets tricky with us, but it's just worth bearing in mind. I'm practicing, so I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this because it feels right to do it. It's still part of my path. But bear in mind that the end goal is that ultimately I'm going beyond practice. The truth is beyond all of us. And he does remind us of that quite frequently. So we practice until practice is necessary until it becomes unnecessary. And when that will be is, individual for each person. You just don't know. So you practice until something comes in and you're like, okay, well, maybe I don't need to practice that anymore. So I let that go. I've had many practices I've done, and then to the point you go, okay, I just don't feel like I need to do it anymore. So then you drop that and you move on to something else. And ultimately, you're going to drop all practice. Okay, so happy with number, where are we? Number 6. Oh no, we're going on to number 6. You might need to do a bit of translation on this one. Can you read for us, Sunny?
Truth does not come and go, nor shift, nor change. In this appearance, now and then, in that, evading capture and escaping grasp. It does not hide. It stands in open light, in obvious accessibility. It is impossible that anyone could seek it truly and would not succeed. Today belongs to truth. Give truth its due, and it will give you yours. You were not meant to suffer and to die. Your Father wills these dreams to be gone. Let truth correct them all. Yeah.
Okay. Any thoughts on that?
Well, again, it's like the truth is stable and it doesn't come and go. You can't capture anything that's not truth. Well, can't capture truth, can you? But on the physical sense, it's accessible to everyone. Yeah.
Give truth its due and we'll give you yours.
Yeah. Give truth its due and it will give you yours. Yeah, okay.
So you accept it into your mind and it will give you your due, which is happiness and peace and love. All comes from the truth.
Yeah, just going back to the last passage about energy, because I work with energy. I'm an energy consultant. Everything is energy, and then you gave it another slant in that last sentence. Like, yeah, energy is matter, and it's ego, so it doesn't exist, and it's illusion. So I was just reshuffling that in my mind.
Projected thought. That's what energy is. So it's just a projection of mind outwards. But in truth, there's no projection. In truth, there's no need for projection. Projection is of the ego. It's the split in the mind. It's representative of the split in the mind, of something now needing to be hurled out of the mind. And literally, that's what we did. We went out of our mind. So energy is all us being out of our minds. So that's not sacred. That's not holy. That's part of the whole illusion. That's in fact the very, the substance of the illusion. The seeming reality of it is given by energy, isn't it? Oh, well, I can see it, feel it, touch it in whatever form it is, whether it's matter or it's, dark energy or, it's a morphic field or whatever. It's all part of this mind-created projection. And this teaching takes us beyond all that, beyond energy. People go, well, what's beyond energy? Well, what was before the Big Bang? Energy came into being at time 0 with the Big Bang. What lay before that? Well, nothing. Okay, no thing. There's no thing. There was no energy. There was no energy. There was no matter. But that doesn't mean there was no form there. But there was something. It's not really a thing, but there was a presence out of which all of that came. And we say out of which. It was a split from that, you see. There must have been something that pre-existed the whole thing. Otherwise, how the hell do you explain it all? Where did suddenly, poof, pop, this Big Bang comes into existence? And the scientists cannot explain. They have no theory as to how that happened. They just go, well, as Rupert Sheldrake says, well, we have one free miracle, which is all matter and energy in the universe pops into existence in a single moment, and we have no idea why that happens, but we'll forget that, and we'll just carry on as though it did happen, and then we explain the how. Okay, well, now after time zero, we can now start explaining in terms of matter and energy how the universe evolved, and that's what science has done. But at time zero, you're like, they have no idea. Absolutely, and they freely admit that we have no idea at time zero what is there, because our models break down and we can't explain anything there. But isn't that interesting? If you have a spiritual intelligence, you'd go, wow, let's just stop there. Let's just stop at that point. Forget explaining more illusions. Let's just stop there and consider the profundity of that idea, that at time zero, we cannot explain anything. All of our models fall apart. Maybe the truth lies there. Maybe we should just go there and forget all the models. If the models have taken us to that realization, that they're useful, because that's what all science does. That it'll eventually take you back to that point of the Big Bang. That's where all scientific endeavor is led, and then you're like, it's the end. You can't go beyond that. You can't take models beyond that. You can't model it because it's eternal and it's infinite. So the mystics then go there. The mystics go into that space of the complete unknown, and they plunge into it, and they have this deep mystic experience of truth, and they bring it back and they say, this is what it's like. They can only describe it in sort of words. You can't model it. You can't put. There's no mathematics there. There's no, like, all of that breaks down. So this is the problem. The scientists get caught up in their own models, and they can't see beyond the models. So they go, and we're trying to find the truth within the model, within quantum mechanics, let's say, or within cosmology as a model. We're trying to find it there, but you'll never find it there, because the model is a model of an illusion. So you cannot find the truth within the illusion. You can only go use the model to take you beyond the illusion to the truth, where you have to let go of your models. In which case you're no longer a scientist or a quantum physicist or whatever you want to believe you are. You become the great I am presence. You become the truth. You're no longer seeking it, you become it. And that is a huge, especially if you're scientifically trained, it's a huge paradigm shift. I can understand why they get blocked there. Even Einstein was pretty enlightened, actually. You look at some of the stuff he said. Significant problems we face cannot be solved at the same level of thinking we're at when we created them. Just like, that's a pointed truth, for sure. But he got stuck on, he's trying to find the truth in the illusion. He tried to find a grand unified theory of the illusion, and he didn't succeed, and no one ever will, because how can you find a grand unified theory of separation, of a projection of separation? You're never going to find it there. So the mystics kind of go beyond that, and they go, let's just go into that truth, into the experience of it, and leave all the models behind. It doesn't, we got to drop everything there, because nothing can go with us into that truth. And that's kind of what he's pointing us to in this lesson, isn't it? Only the truth. Give truth its due. All the dreams will be gone. You're going to drop everything away, and this, your Father, which is your source, we just need to do a little translation there, is going to just reveal the truth entirely to you, and everything else is just gonna fall away. Now that is mind-blowing. When you really think about what he's saying, it literally is. It's gonna blow your ego mind completely out the water. It cannot go there. And that's what he's asking us to do. So if you find a little bit of resistance, that's normal, because it's like, whoa, this is like a radical, my ego can't go there. I'm going beyond time and space and energy and matter, and everything that you've learned up to this point is a preparation for this. You just got to see it as that. It's training wheels. So all of your energy work and everything, it's useful. But at a point, you got to go, okay, I'm going beyond that, because you are not an energy worker. You are the I am presence. You are that presence and nothing else. So you can't continue believing in energy and be the formless, pure spirit that you really are. You've got to drop that belief in the end. Now, that doesn't mean you can't use it as a useful tool to help others. But you don't ultimately believe in it anymore. This isn't the ultimate truth for you. You go, okay, this is just a useful tool. This can be used to show people the spirit, because the spirit can then work through the energy and the matter, to reveal itself through that and through the work you do. But ultimately, it's the spirit that's doing the healing, and the energy just follows the spirit. So. Now, if you really get this, Sally, I mean, the healing you could do is just extraordinary. Look at what Jesus did. I mean, just like quite exceptional healing, mastery of energy, because he was coming from beyond energy. You see, it was like the presence beyond energy now directing the energy to flow in certain ways, and he wasn't really doing it. There was no like personal will there. It was just like, okay, I'm just showing up in the presence of God in this perfectly loving energy, perfect, pure formless awareness of perfect love, as we call it. And when I do that, healing happens. I think he didn't even know how he healed. He just showed up, and the energy is so powerful. It's just streaming through him. And also people believed. He didn't do miracles where they didn't believe. It's recorded in the Bible. He went to Nazareth and he said he didn't do any miracles there, because that was his hometown. Everyone said, oh, we know him. He grew up around, he was a little kid knocking around the block 20 years ago. How can he be the Messiah? So they didn't believe. And so then how do you work with people who are blocked in their belief? You can't, because the energy can't flow. Whereas where people believe, the energy then flowed through him. It was all, just then he just allowed it to happen. I think he didn't really know how he did it. I don't know, but I think it just happened. It's like just stuff showed up. He wasn't trying to manifest. He just like, I'm just the loving presence, and it just happens. Like, okay, because it's a naturally healing energy. So this is source instead of father.
I was going to ask you what the father was.
Yeah.
Better.
Is a better translation, because there's not really a father. We're using it's an old language, Christian terminology. It's not really your father, it's your source. It's the very source of your mind. But father sort of takes it into a paternal, your father, and he's going to look after you, and all that kind of father God. No, it's your absolute source. It's the very essence of who you are. Much better pointer to what it really is than father. Most people. I understand why he used that language, because in his day, he was trying to get people to understand. Okay, well, it's like, people could understand father. Okay, because we all have mothers and fathers. So, okay, you come from your father. But I think we move beyond needing that. Source is a much better pointer. It's this very source, the very foundation of your mind. And so your source simply wills that all these illusions that cover it over be gone, and that truth correct them all. Any other thoughts on that paragraph?
I think I might need a few months to process it all. But yeah,
I think you might need a few years. This is the purpose of your life, is to process all of this. And you get these, like, I'm just downloading into you to actually process it, integrate it, and make sense of it, and then be able to operate with it is the work. And that, it can take years, because it's just mind-blowing to really get your head around. I mean, you can't really get your head around it. Your rational mind can't comprehend this. So it's like a feeling. You've got to learn how to just feel into it, they say, and just be like, I'm okay with just the feeling of this expansive, energy coming through me, and I don't need to frame it or define it or try and understand it. It's just whooshing through me, and I can just kind of allow that and learn how to live again. That's why, this idea of being reborn in the spirit. because it's such an intense energy and experience that you know you have to learn how to manage that and allow it to come through you in a, you know, there's a prayer to be truly helpful, using this energy. And it's not that easy. It takes time and practice, and to really, you know, be able to be in the world but not of the world. That's how Jesus phrased it: to be in the world but not of the world. And you know, be able to live here but not really be here. You don't really believe you're here, but you're still able to operate actually extremely functionally in the world. It's a complete paradox, isn't it? Like, how does that work? And your rational mind just can't get its head. Your ego is never going to get its head around that. But in my experience, if you just work with it, and you work with this teaching, and you keep on the path and you keep practicing, it's like somehow the Spirit shows you, and you're just like, yeah, actually, I can kind of see how that is working. It is actually working, and I am being kind of shifted into another mode of operating that can feel a bit scary and unfamiliar, but actually also amazing, just like really light and free. And actually, I want more of that. So, okay, you know, am I willing to just let go a bit more and just like go with it? Say, okay, well, take me, use me, you know, and I'm just the instrument. I'm not really doing it. I'm just being done through. David Hoffmeister talks about being done through, which is quite a nice way of putting it. You know, I'm not doing it. I'm being done through. I'm not the doer. I'm the done through.
It's nearly 3 o'clock, Jono.
Yes. Okay. So we push on then. Happy with are you happy with number?
Yeah.
Number 6?
I thought you were going to finish at 3. Haven't you got to go?
I've still got a bit of time. Gabriel's coming home in about half an hour, and then he's going off to swimming at about 4. So.
Okay. Well, I've got to go really because I've got a client. So is it all right if I leave halfway through this one?
Yeah.
Is that all right?
You got to go now.
Yeah. I've got to. Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining.
All right. Thank you very much for the multiple paradigm shifts.
Yeah, just
then I've got to try and carry on with a client. It's like, oh goodness.
Well, just give it to the Spirit. It's okay. You do it then. You know, I'm not really doing anything. Just you show me. You speak the words. You do whatever, and you might find some amazing stuff happens.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? When you let go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely. Great.
Okay.
Thanks so much. Bye, John.
Thank you. John, are you going to continue?
Yeah. Cheers, Sally.
Can you finish the lesson?
Yep.
Okay.
So, we do not ask for what we do not have. We merely ask for what belongs to us, that we may recognize it as our own. Today we practice on the happy note of certainty that has been born of truth. The shaky and unsteady footsteps of illusion are not our approach today. We are as certain of success as we are sure we live and hope and breathe and think. We do not doubt. We walk with truth today and count on it to enter into all the exercises that we do this day.
Okay.
I think
any thoughts on that?
I think it's just, well, it's reaffirming everything that's in the previous 6 paragraphs, I think, really. We're not asking for something, we are asking to recognize that which is within us already. We're not talking about, you know, unlike the illusion, which has all its highs and lows and unsteady footsteps, we are being asked to join with the certainty of oneness.
Yeah, it's almost like affirmations. He's saying, this is how it is.
Yeah.
We're certain of success. It's a done deal. It's there for you. And do not doubt. You walk with the truth today. You count on it to enter into all the exercises. So it's there with you. And, by affirmation, you start to believe it, don't you? He uses powerful affirmative words. It definitely does something internally. Yeah, I'm starting to feel that certainty. So this is how he translates belief into knowledge. I'm just feeling it, and I'm feeling the certainty and the connection.
Yeah.
Really, amazing use of words to do this. Just master of words to change state. Really, that's what he's doing, to change our state and get us to just drop into this state of certainty and of knowing that, this is true, and I feel that deeper knowing and connection. And that's an experiential. This takes us beyond just the intellectual knowing of it. It's the experiential knowing of it. Okay, happy with 7?
Yep. Begin by asking him who goes with you upon this undertaking that he be in your awareness as you go with him. You are not made of flesh and blood and bone, but were created by the self-same thought which gave the gift of life to him as well. He is your brother, and so like to you, your Father knows that you are both the same. It is yourself you ask to go with you, and how could he be absent where you are?
Interesting. So we've got a bit of translation to do there.
Yeah.
You want to translate as we go, and I'll just type it in.
Yeah. So begin by asking pure the remembrance of awareness.
Yeah, I'd say he's talking about the Holy Spirit. So the remembrance of perfect love, we call it.
Begin by asking the remembrance of perfect love, which goes with you, upon this undertaking, that it be in your awareness as you go with it. You are not made of flesh and blood and bone, but were created by the self-same thought, which gave the gift of life to it as well. It is your brother, and so like to you, your source knows that you are both the same.
I'd say let's change that to companion, shall we?
Yeah. Yes, that's better. Yes. It is your companion, and so like to you, your Father knows that you are. Your source knows that you are both the same.
And then he says it is yourself. So interesting. He's actually referring not to the Holy Spirit, but to the Christ, to the one self. Begin by asking. So instead of him, we say your true self. Happy with that?
Yeah. So it is your true self you ask to go with you. And how could it be absent where you are?
Yeah.
Yep.
And were created. I think maybe we should change created to extended. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Extended. Extended by the self-same thought, which gave the gift of life to it as well. So the self is the self-identity, higher self, is the Christ. That is the one identity of the of pure formless awareness. So this presence, pure formless awareness, gave the gift of life to the self and to you. Because you are one with that self. So it's a higher capital self concept that he's talking about. It goes with you wherever you go. So this is the Christ, aka the Christ. He doesn't use that term, but the self is the Christ. The one self that goes with us wherever we go. That's our true identity. That's the true self concept that was created or extended by love. That is part of love. Cannot really be separated from love, because you cannot separate out the one self from oneness. It's just the self concept that unites you with oneness in your mind. So hence Christ, the one self, leads to God, the state of perfect oneness. Because if you only one self, then there must only be perfect oneness. And then you enter into that experience. Okay, any thoughts on that? Summary of number 8.
I think it's another affirmation that we can see truth. We can find truth in our companion, and we are both, because we are both the same.
The companion he's talking about is the self-concept.
Yeah. Ah, yes.
It's not a person.
It's not a person, no.
It's this higher self-concept or Christ idea. So the I am presence, the I am that I am presence is your companion wherever you go. It's your true identity. So like to you, your source knows that you are both the same, i.e. you are the one self.
Yeah.
So this is the self-concept that God made, that the love extended, which is the only true self-concept, because it's the only self-concept that's going to bring you back into an awareness of pure formless awareness, into that pure formless awareness of perfect love that we talk about. The self-concept will bring you into that state of mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, in other words, Christ leads you to God. Christ delivers you to God, put in religious terms. Okay, so we'll move on to number 9.
Truth will correct all errors in your mind which tell you you could be apart from him. You speak to him today and make your pledge to let his function be fulfilled through you. To share his function is to share his joy. His confidence is with you as you say, truth will correct all errors in my mind, and I will rest in him who is myself. Then let him lead you gently to the truth, which will envelop you and give you peace so deep and tranquil that you will return to the familiar world reluctantly.
Yeah, so we do a little translation of that. It's only, I think that needs a that there. It's only that. You don't have two U's after each other. It can be apart from your true self. That's what he's referring to.
You speak to it today, make your pledge to let its function be fulfilled through you. To share, its function is to share its joy. Its confidence is with you, as you say. Truth will correct all errors in my mind, and I will rest in it who is myself.
We don't need that. I think just that's much simpler.
Yeah.
Sometimes the language is like, I will rest in it as my, I will rest in yourself. So it's like, let's be very straightforward about it.
Then let it lead you gently to the truth, which will envelop you and give you peace so deep and tranquil that you will return to the familiar world reluctantly.
So what he's saying is this self-concept, if you fully identify with it, will lead you to this truth, which is pure formless awareness, which is an experience that will give you such deep peace and tranquility that you return to this familiar world of illusion very reluctantly, because you're like, oh, that's just so lovely. Like, why would I want to come back here? Why indeed? But then you're doing it, experientially. It's just the whole point. It's only in your experience that you're really going to be able to escape, because your mind is then becoming accustomed to another reality that's not of this world. Okay? Any thoughts on that one? Give a little summary of that.
So it's saying here that truth will correct all Truth will correct all errors in our minds. I mean, that's our pillar of strength.
And the true self is the kind of the centerpiece of that truth. So it's almost giving us like an anchor to go, well, there's one self, believe in that, give everything to that, and then it will lead you to the experience of truth, of this deep peace of pure formless awareness. It all comes from the higher self concept, the one self, which is the Christ. So Christ leads you to God. Christ leads you. The translated into our language, the one self concept leads you to an experience of pure formless awareness. And that's very helpful, I think, to have a self-concept to replace the current egoic one. I think a lot of people get terribly scared if they go, well, it's just a void. It's like a vacuum. The Buddhist teaching is there is no God, there is no self. And you go into the void of nirvana. Jesus is saying, yes, you're going to go into pure formless awareness, but your intermediary step to that is identifying with the one self and only the one self. That's the Christ in you. If you want to put that in Buddhist terms, the Buddha nature. Identify with that and that only, and that will bring the experience of pure formless awareness or heaven or nirvana, whatever you want to call it. That will bring that into your experience. Okay?
Yeah.
Happy with number 9?
Yeah.
Number 10?
And yet you will be glad to look again upon this world, for you will bring with you the promise of the changes which the truth that goes with you will carry to the world. They will increase with every gift you give of 5 small minutes, and the errors that surround the world will be corrected as you let them be corrected in your mind.
Yeah. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. So as we connect with truth, we increase the vibration of the world.
Yeah, as you do it in your own mind, then the errors, because the errors are just a projection of the mind. So as you correct your own mind, then you're correcting the errors of the projection, even though that doesn't seem to happen immediately, and certainly not everyone is doing it all at once. This is, on a metaphysical level, this is how the process of correction works. It's the only way you're ever going to change the world for any kind of good is to correct the mind, because the mind, as we talked about, this is all mind energy. The world as we know it is a projection of thought, projection of what we call energy, but it's really just thought projected outwards. So that's all coming from our thinking, all coming from our minds. Well, this is why things like the law of attraction, and this is why they work, because it's all projected thought. So if you start tapping into the very source of thought, then the projection changes.
Yeah.
Okay, happy with number 10?
Yep.
And last one, number 11, and then we'll do a 20-minute med. If you're okay with that?
Do not forget your function for today. Each time you tell yourself with confidence, truth will correct all errors in my mind, you speak for all the world and him who would release the world, as he would set you free. Do not forget your function for today. Each time you tell yourself with confidence, truth will correct all errors in my mind, you speak for all the world and it which would release the world, as it would set you free.
And let me hit that. What do you think?
Yeah.
Which hit that?
And you speak for
Maybe
all the
we should
world.
just say yourself, because that's what he's referring to.
Yeah.
Our true self. It would release the world. As it would set you free. Okay, any questions on that?
No, that's good.
Okay, so shall we do a meditation?
Yep.
So just making yourself comfortable. Sitting with your feet shoulder width apart, back straight, cup your hands in your lap, close your eyes. And start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. Breathing into the lower stomach. Feel the stomach inflating. Clench the sphincter muscle. It's the muscle used to contract the flow of urine or squeeze the last drops out. You lock the energy in. Just draw the energy up the spine. And this warm wave of energy rising up into your heart center. Put one hand on your heart to connect with your heart space. And draw it all the way up to the crown of your head. Pausing at the top of the inhale. Scan your mind, so notice any thoughts, any emotions, any sensations going on. And now ask your true self, which goes with you in this undertaking, let it be in your awareness as you go with it. Observe the thoughts, the emotions that arise, and bring anything that is unpleasant, dark, negative to the truth. Realize that you are not made of flesh and blood and bone, but were extended by the self-same thought, which gave the gift of life to itself as well. It is your companion, so like to you, your source knows that you are both the same. It is your true self you ask to go with you, and how could it be absent where you are? So just breathe in, and breathing in this radiant energy of the true self, the one self, Christ in you. It helps you can imagine breathing in beautiful golden or white light, flowing into every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being. It's in the light. And in this light, all errors are corrected. Truth will correct all errors in your mind. So say to yourself, truth will correct all errors in my mind. And I will rest in my true self. And exhale on the truth of that. Exhale, just rest in the stillness. Nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just breathe, relax, be still. Truth will correct all errors in my mind, and I will rest in my true self. And then let the self lead you gently to the truth, which will envelop you give you peace so deep and tranquil that you'll return to the familiar world reluctantly. And so just drop into this deep peace, stillness, silence. Let it encompass you and envelop you completely. Truth is still, the truth is silent. Nowhere else to go, there's nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Please relax and be still. Surrender in deeper and deeper with each breath. It's breathing in and out normally through your nose, observing the breath flowing in and the breath flowing out. Sinking inward deeper and deeper with each breath into the very peaceful, calm, still silence. If any thoughts arise, this deep peace, remind yourself that truth corrects all errors in my mind. This thought is just an error, just an ephemeral cloud pattern, just blowing away with the breeze of your breath. So truth will correct all errors in my mind, and I'll rest in my true self. Nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about, just sinking inwards to the truth. Surrender to it completely. Truth will correct all errors in my mind, and I rest in my true self. And let go and let the self just give you an experience of deep peace. Next couple of minutes of deep silence. So just gently coming back. And just deep peace into an awareness of the body and the breath and the senses and the world. Now on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in. Noticing how the stomach rises, chest rises, subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Noticing breath flowing in through the nostrils. Scan your mind, notice any thoughts, any emotions going on. Anything that's unwelcome, just remind yourself, truth will correct all errors in my mind, and I will rest in my true self. So let go, so exhale, letting it all go, exhaling it all out. On the count of 2, notice the weight of your body, pressing down into the chair, feet touching the ground. Notice what you're feeling and touching. Notice what you're hearing. And on the count of 3, open your eyes and just looking around. And it's okay, I'm coming. That brings us to the end of the meditation. Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Hope you enjoyed that. And
Yeah.
shall I see you tomorrow? We'll do the first paragraph of the. I've got to go now, but we'll do the first paragraph tomorrow of the. It was just an introductory paragraph. We'll do it,
Okay.
we'll do it tomorrow.
Okay. We probably won't be on it, John, because we're going up to Northumberland on a walking holiday.
Oh, right. Yeah, you said. Okay. So you're going away for a few days?
Yeah, we'll be back next Monday.
Yes. Okay.
Next Tuesday, actually.
See you next Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Have a good walk. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Do you want to say hello to my
Yes, please.
my family's just joined. Okay.
Okay, yes.
Okay, hang on, they've just gone out. All right. I need to go. So
Okay.
have a good holiday, and I will see you soon.
You too. Yeah, have a great week, John.
Okay.
Go swimming. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Bye then.
Now.
Bye.
Bye. Nice. Great. Just wait.